1978. Dancer's lunatic asylum not only housed mentally challenged beings, but also was a prison for sinners who are mentally unstable. Imagine a house full of lunatics who have been accused of some crime that's so gruesome, even today's standards. The number of admissions in the asylum shadow always. The reason they're called shadow always because you always spot a big shadow peeking out of the doors and the hallway, crawling across the corridor. Now that is truly creepy. Truly creepy, if you ask me. Can you imagine you're on a tour of this asylum and you can feel somebody walking behind you? Walking behind you. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, West Virginia. Built around the Civil War, the asylum was originally designed to house around 250 patients. So it was only designed to house 250 patients. But it ended up holding more than, get this, 2,400 patients. People were locked like animals in cages, lobotomized with ice picks, chained to things leading to hundreds of deaths. A palpable air of suffering. So you know this place is completely haunted. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that many lost souls would be crawling through this place. Also, since the asylum was briefly a Civil War military base, it is not uncommon to spot a uniformed soldier or ghost taking a casual stroll along the corridors. Waverly Hills Sanatorium, Kentucky. Now this is freaking scary looking. I'm gonna put pictures up of these. Most of them. This absolutely tops the list of America's most haunted spots. You'll never believe this. An alleged 63,000 deaths. 63,000 people died in this sanatorium. Built in 1910, this place was initially built to house a cure for tuberculosis patients. But a trail of mistreatment and dubious experiments made many lose their lives. Now they got shoved into what was known as the death tunnel or body chute. Oh my gosh. Now there are locally known spirits active today. One is called Timmy, a boy who likes to asylums were so barbaric in nature, and they would use these poor, whether they were considered prisoners or they were, patients. It was still a tragedy of what they would do to these people. It's just sad. Yeah. proceeded to ask me if I ever had been raped, had sex with a man, or had seen God. Yeah, that's when I really understood the power of psychosis. I now have more empathy, understanding, and respect for all of my majorly mentally ill clients. I think something had happened to him. I mean, the fact that he asked her if she had ever been raped, and he was, had done that with his feces, tells me that's probably something wrong. Like, something happened to him that he was causing this mental break. Sad. So that's it. I knew a guy in his early 30s who was a gifted mathematician. Often thought he was Elvis and would walk around at great speed, mumbling to himself, or singing Elvis numbers under his breath, totally burnt out by his own mind. A social group of heroin addicts who variously got admitted due to the psychiatric consequences of AIDS. Only one of them was HIV negative, and he would come to visit their friends. The reason why he was negative, his dad was diabetic, so he obtained and got his first use of the needle. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. That's sad. So, you may be wondering why psychiatric consequences of AIDS. Well, this apparently is a classic example of toxoplasmosis infection during the late stages of the disease. However, HIV patients at many times find it very difficult living with their illness, especially back when treatments were much less effective and it was more of a death sentence. A man with severe schizophrenia and degenerative spine clearing a 3-foot to 4-foot counter just to sit on the floor in the middle of the nursing station because Arthur Saladin, the supreme being, told me to. Same guy trying to bite off his own fingers because we would not let him climb the counter, so he needed to appease Arthur some other way. We had to remove plastic cups from the adolescent unit because one of the worst borderline girls I've ever worked with kept trying to cut herself with them. A bipolar patient presenting with psychotic features, accusing me of being Cthulhu, trying to steal his soul. Later became his favorite staff member after the mania. A 13-year-old schizophrenic that looked like Chucky. For real, I'm not even lying. That was the nickname the staff gave her. Her parents did not believe in medication, so I got to watch her laugh manically and respond to non-existent stimuli for extended periods of time. Why would her parents do that to her? That's terrible. A 60-ish woman whispered to my coworker, I need to show you something. She's saying, am I going to live through this conversation? I did medical clearances for a psych ward at a county ER in Sonoma County, California. I worked there for a year and a half. One time we had a guy who went on a meth bender for days on end and did nothing but play World of Warcraft. During this days-long bender, he was also schizophrenic or something similar. I can't really remember. I can't remember what the nurse said. He was living in the video game, screaming about Azeroth, etc. He thought the nurses were bad guys. We had to restrain him constantly. There was a woman there who came into the yard to say she was suicidal. She saw the line and went back out to the car and committed suicide by taking a bunch of pills. A few days later, her sister turned up looking for her. I found her dead in the back of her car. Nobody had even noticed. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry I sound so callous, but after such a long time in places like this, you either become desensitized or crazy yourself. The back of the car thing is really crazy, but I can believe it. A woman was found dead in one of my university's parking lot, sitting in the front fucking seat. Listen to this. She had been sitting in the front seat for 6 to 10 residents of a nearby rural psychiatric hospital. They came every day for work and therapy to a small, isolated government poultry lab farm where I earned my tuition between semesters. The patients were all reasonably functioning individuals, though some were slow-moving and slow-thinking. This is the early 70s, a much less litigious time, so although my fellow poultry technicians and I had no training in handling people with issues like theirs, we were expected as part of our regular duties to supervise them while they worked. Their work therapy consisted of helping us with simple routine tasks like sweeping up, distributing feed, gathering and counting eggs, removing dead birds, and of course, shoveling lots and lots of chicken poop. Most of them had been working there for years, and the rest of us ever simultaneously booked a sick day would undoubtedly have carried on perfectly well on their own. I never considered any of them a physical threat. The biggest danger they ever presented were trying to sneak a verboten smoke in the poultry barn, and a marked tendency to goof off the moment they thought nobody was watching. Some of the test birds were kept in large screened pens containing up to 1,000 fowl each. Wow. One day, late in my fourth and last semester there, Bob, one of our slowest movers, was in just such a pen gathering eggs when he suddenly, and without warning, had what a layman might, like myself, would call a severe panic attack. Perhaps even a full-out psychotic episode. Bob was a very big guy, 6'6", 300 pounds. Ex-Marine who had been brain damaged when he had to try to break up a bar fight by himself. He was cold cock with a whiskey bottle. Me, I was just 5'8", third string wrestler in the varsity squad's 130-pound class who never had to worry much about making weight. Although I was in very good shape, average build would have been kind. I was in another pen at the time, 3 over and around a corner when Bob began his episode. I heard the ruckus. It took me a few seconds to actually figure out what was going on and get myself from the cage without squashing anything. Button it up, dash down the corridor, locate the disturbance, and enter. The men were normally passive, terrified of mice, quiet old genial giant. Bob was now screaming at the top of his lungs and flailing around mightily, as if battling biblical demons. In response, the 3,000 birds housed in that cage and 2 neighbors were simultaneously sounding their rape alarms and striving mightily to recapture their ancestral capacity for fight. First, you have to know that they put everybody into a big room to eat with about 4 people at each table. I'm a male, which is important to this story, I promise. I was feeding one of the women there, and the woman across the table kept talking to me, which was completely normal. Alzheimer's patients are usually able to carry on conversations until they are in the late stages. And this woman was in her early stages and still physically healthy. was another guy who would take his feces out with a pen and stack them in geometrical sculptures in his room. He filled his drawer with pee as well. I once helped this woman get cleaned up in the shower. She came in all covered in urine and feces and vomit. She was there for a few weeks. I got to know her little, then I myself had a nervous breakdown a few months later and had to be hospitalized in a different hospital. She was in there too and remembered me and helped me out. I'm sure that's very lonely. During nursing school, we did a standard psych rotation. After female classmate and I were in a group session in the men's unit, we sit down and then a violent sexual predator makes it a point to any and all females feel like victims. He sits down right next to me. He proceeds to invade my space, and I'm not exactly sure what else he was doing back there because I was attempting to remain focused on the group lead's speech. But he received many verbal warnings about his actions. After a few minutes, he interrupts to inform everyone that he needed to take a trip to the bathroom. He winks at me and exits the room. At which point a patient on the other side of the room who was refused to speak to anybody about anything, and up till this point has, for all intents and purposes, been completely in his own world, gets up. He politely scoots the chair which had ended up touching me away from me and sits down in it. He sits a few seconds and then gets up, grabs his empty chair and throws it into the room across the hall. He sits down again. He receives a warning for throwing things in. A thank you for me. When the VSP came back and saw no available seat, he decided to go watch TV and wait for the nurse to open the med room. All the female patients, ranging from 70 to 73, were pregnant per this man's thoughts. There were other things, but I really appreciated the help I received. Oddly heartwarming. My mother worked in a mental hospital during the big 2011 blackout in California. When the power went out at the mental hospital, the backup generators did not kick in. The result was every single patient's door opening, letting every single patient breathe. My mom said she locked herself in her office and the only light was a red emergency light, which made everything even more sinister. Oh my gosh, she said all she could hear was the patients screaming until she finally got security up there and things got under control. Pretty terrifying stuff. Honestly, I don't know what I would have done. That sounds really, really scary. My ex-boyfriend and I spent our fair share of time out in our town's respective psychiatric wards. Max met this boy who completely and utterly believed that he was invisible. If you looked at him, he would look back really weird at you and run away. He spent most of his days standing in the hallway. I worked insane asylum, but I worked at an adult daycare. It was more of a healthcare program. We'd have a lot of registrants with several severe mental illnesses. They'd come to us for the day, and we would monitor and help with them to stay living in the community instead of being in a home. One morning, about a year into working there, it was about 8 a.m. and I realized I was alone in a room with about 7 registrants with schizophrenia. I remember thinking how different each of them were affected by the illness. One gentleman, Richard, came in. He was almost 70, and he had a small cut above his eye. I asked him what happened. He sighed reluctantly and said, "Well, I'll tell you. About 4 o'clock this morning, I got in a fight with a kangaroo. I was too dumbfounded to speak, but that instant, other individuals with delusional disorder and weighed about 450 pounds wheeled up to Richard and said, 'Richard, that's ridiculous. Stop telling stories. You did not get into a fight with a kangaroo.' Richard, obviously taken aback, because he really thought he did. I thought to myself, wow, that was bold, but good job trying to keep him from telling all the tales. No sooner did I finish that thought, she finishes her sentence, 'You did not get in a fight with a kangaroo, because I have been in a fight with a kangaroo, and you get beat up worse than a cut on your eye. What color was the kangaroo that hit you?' He said, 'I don't know. I did not get a good look at him.' The long story that short, schizophrenic patients come in with a cut in his eye and says he got into a fight with a kangaroo in the middle of the night. A delusional patient corrects him, and just when I think she is taking him closer to sanity, she actually surprises me with the comment, correcting him to stop telling his small tales when she has a taller tale to tell. This is not appropriate. to school with, and in school we refer to her as the crazy kid. I'm not talking quirky, I'm talking criminally insane, serious mental disturbances. The kind of mental disturbances that you don't want to make fun of as a kid because it's horrible too. But kids do not know any better and cannot exactly say, "I was as nice to her as I should have been." Yeah, there she comes, running across the cafeteria to me, dragging along some guy who's clearly heavily medicated. He can barely keep up. His feet keep dripping underneath him. She turns around and yells at him, "Get the fuck up." She looks at me and says, "Please be working here. Oh God, be working here." I think to myself. I turn around and I say, hey, Wanda, how are you doing? At which point I was bombarded with information, gushing torrent of words and unrelated facts about Wanda's life since I last saw her in high school. The bullet points were, she's better than she was in high school. Yay, question mark, I think. She's engaged to a heavily medicated gentleman on her arm. Guess where they met? She's at the hospital today for some required sessions. She spent time in building 3. Oh, I'm thinking to myself, where are the guards and why in the hell am I sweating so much? In a completely flat, matter-of-fact tone, she says, "I killed 3 people. I chopped them up and spread their body parts across the state." I say, the only thing I could think to say was, "Oh, that's unfortunate." I'm fucking terrified and I'm not hiding it very well at all. It's in the middle of winter and I'm dripping with sweat. I'm very clearly looking for the exits. I'm recalling every horrible thing I ever did to this woman during my childhood. I'm thinking karma is going to pull her claws out and slash me across the throat. But I didn't think I did not deserve some way. But I didn't want my life to end right there in that cafeteria, that is for sure. I'm supremely aware of the fact that we are in the cafeteria of a mental institution and surrounded by pointy objects. She continues through her stream of terror when she abruptly says, "Well, okay, it was great catching up. I gotta go, bye." And leaves with her fiancé in tow. I turn to my coworkers and very quietly say, "We really should go right now." 2 of them who clearly were not paying attention to the conversation that just happened go, "Ooh, got a date with your new girlfriend?" To which I replied, "Did you not fucking hear the part where she killed and chopped up 3 people?" They paused for a second before launching into a round of, "Oh, right. Yeah, and oh, yeah, shit." At this point, my third, quiet, attentive, and equally terrified co-worker pipes up and says, "Yeah, she just said she killed 3 damn people and was locked up in building 3. We get the out of there like no one ever gotten the F out of there before." From that day, we ate lunch at the shipping receiving building where we were based on the other side of the property. And I always checked my back seat and trunk before I got into my car to leave after work. So here's a bonus. On another trip out there with a different team, there was a guy who hit on all of the nurses, but was usually working at regular hospitals. Well, he found a bunch was actually smoking. He thought she was a nurse, but she was a patient. I don't know if I said that right or not. I was kind of stuck on the one prior to that where she had killed and chopped up 3 people. I can't remember if there was anybody. I don't think anybody in my high school is really crazy, just a lot of drug heads and surfers in Florida. Nobody really like nobody really super crazy. Not that I know of anyway, but it was such a huge high school compared to the one in Ohio. It was quite different. So, let me tell you something. I heard a story from, well, a family friend who once did plumbing work in an asylum. The reason he had to keep going back was because one of the patients had a habit of breaking toilet bowls with his head. His head. Also, he said that there was another patient who constantly pulled nails from the floorboards with his bare hands. It's now abandoned, so me and some friends snuck in there at night. Found old electric shock treatment stuff and a massive Ouija board carved into the floor. Holy crap, and we did not go back. Wow. I'm currently interning at one right now. I'm kind of surprised at some of these things that I'm hearing because I've experienced so many similar things in the small amount of time that I've actually been at the place that I'm interning at. I believe every one of these because we actually call them the shitters because they are people, inmates that throw feces at us, along with an area for solely the hardcore sex offenders. My first odd experience was with an older man who I was warned not to turn my back on or to be alone with. He was a sexual deviant and suffered from severe delusions of being Hitler. Sweet little old man talked quietly and attentively. Then he asked me to do a Nazi salute with him. Our conversation ended there. Now he loves to speak to me about death squads. Quite honestly, the craziest thing I have seen here is not dealing with people shitting themselves, attacking staff or threatening me, although it's happened, all of it. A patient recently left. She was a young woman, maybe 27, much older than me. Grotesque self-inflicting scars literally covered her body. I've never seen anything like it. Her right hand was so disfigured and burned from her tormenting herself. But from the day that I met her, she was all smiles and laughs. They were sincere. She seemed to be really happy. Anytime I saw her, I would stop and chat with her briefly. Whether it be chatting about her day or reminding her how she is a damn cheater at King's Corner, which she I see in this place are nothing compared to the things leading up to them. The paths of these people, everyone has their own horror story. I'm happy that I did not read up on her until after she left, because I feel like I would have been way too attached to her getting better. Now I can focus on helping others still there. But I know she was not ready to go yet. I like saying bye to patients if they are leaving. And unfortunately, I was gone the day she left. From what I heard, she was sad that I was not there. This is really hard for me. Like I said, she needed more time, but that's something she didn't have. All the cuts in her mental health system, we focus and force patients out when they're good, not ready, in order to make room for those on the ever-growing waiting list. We do not have enough money or enough beds, and it sucks that we cannot do more. It does. It's terrible that anybody has to live like this. So my dad, yeah, he works on a mental floor, in a way. This huge lady got admitted, so they were going through her stuff that she brought with her, which was not really allowed, and inside her stuff was spaghetti spoon, the large one with the teeth edges. My dad asked her why she brought it, and she told him she uses it to wipe her ass. Also, a few days later, my dad was doing rounds, and this same lady walked out of her room and turned down the hallway in front of him wearing nothing but a purple G-string. So I've never actually worked in one, but I was committed myself under Mental Health Act for attempted suicide about 5 years ago. I was put into a temporary high attention ward. The ward was split into 3 wings. If you had the suicides, about 4 of us. Rehabs, 4 or 5, and those with mental illness. There were few, but they were kept away from the rest of us. There was a woman there in her mid-20s, maybe older. I believe she had Down syndrome, but did not see her much or properly. So I can't really know how much older she was or her other antics. Over my stay, this woman was found having intercourse with door handles, stealing cutlery, I can't ever say that, cutlery, to flush herself with, and even snuck into someone's room to seduce them when they refused. Decided that having sex with the someone else's bed frame was the best option. That moment is stuck in my head mostly. The police brought a guy in. Was about my age, so late 20s. Mid to late 20s. Clearly for rehab, he was spaced out. Not really with it. They sat him down in the common room while processing the paperwork. He just sat there staring at a cup of water. He didn't even move. Then imperils his sex-crazed woman, runs over, drops her trousers. She starts waving her arse inches from his face. I can still picture the look on his face, somewhat between, oh, what the hell is going on, and, oh man, what did I take? The staff grabbed her and started pulling her away, trying to dress her in the process. The only thing that could be heard was her screaming, physical urges like the rest of us, like anyone else, but they don't have any filters or, they can't comprehend social norms. So even the most innocent guy or girl can do the most lewd, brave sexual act anywhere in front of or with anyone. There was a man when I was in the insane asylum for a while, and he had shaved hourglass-shaped teeth on the top front of his teeth, completely brown and rotting. On my last day, I watched a guy throw a metal chair through a 15-foot glass window. I guess it wasn't super crazy, but there was one guy who was more mentally dysfunction than mental illness. I don't think he should have really been there, but he liked to bang his head against the concrete wall when he was frustrated, hard, bleeding hard. It was also surprising to me the amount of individuals that on the outside seemed 100% sane and completely normal until you saw the letters they wrote to the president talking about how they were wrongfully accused because JFK did not meet with them like he had promised he would. Big Spring State Hospital, 2006. How about the smell after I cleaned dentures? Come out. I pried dentures out of the mouth of a woman who was there for 3 weeks before we knew they were dentures. I swear they had mold on them. You would think that would be standard intake evaluation. But maybe not. I don't know. They must have been decently fitted dentures, I guess. I don't know, I can't really say on this subject. I've never had a cavity. I had a patient get naked, cover himself with butter, and begin running in circles around the nursing station chanting, "Parquet, parquet." It stopped being funny when we tried to grab him. A friend of mine worked as a warden in a criminal psychiatric facility. He was monitoring a guy in a padded cell who was a compulsive self-harmer, and a violent prick. I only say that because he was. Let's try that one. I kind of like that one better, actually. And any object he would get his hands on, he would use on himself. Pull his hair, his fingernails out to pick at old wounds, and anything else to inflict pain on him. They would serve him lunch, which included a treat in the form of a small pack of chips. He would eat his food. Then before he could be stopped, he pulled up the empty chip packet and ate it. It lodged in his throat, but was not obstructing his breathing. He tried to get it out without much success, so they made him wait in the cell while they organized for an MD to come with some instruments. He lay down on the bed with his back to the viewing window. My mate was keeping a close eye on him in the case. He started joking and wound up and would get him to confirm he was okay verbally every few minutes or so. After 15 minutes, the doctor arrives and they tell the prisoner to stand up so they can cuff him. The effing psycho stands up and crazy. I mean, I've seen a lot of crazy things, but this is pretty nuts. So if you were looking for something like this tonight, it's a little bit different, but it's really kind of interesting. I didn't realize, actually. I didn't realize the extent of it. But it makes a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense. Well into the 1980s, insane asylums themselves were insane. Giant complexes, hundreds of sane and insane, all labeled insane, wandering around the facility. 13 psychologists or psychiatrists do hundreds of patients. Shock therapy, brief frontal lobotomy given out like candy to the more upstart patients. It was nuts. I suspect certain hospitals still are like this out there. I'm sure that there are, I just don't think the mentally ill are treated with the same kind of respect and decency that they should be. But that's just my personal opinion. I think we need to look more at, how much inside but don't know how to handle it, or they don't understand that that's what they're seeing. They think that they're hallucinating when they're not. I mean, it's very possible that in a insane asylum that a man could be definitely seeing somebody who had hung himself from, years ago or whatever. I mean, that wouldn't be out of the, out of a realistic thought that something would happen there like that. I wouldn't think anyway. A nurse that I worked with was an older gentleman that told me that he was in nursing school. They had rotation at an asylum for the criminally insane, and a girl followed him around all day. He said that she kept telling him that he reminded her of her father. Before he left for the day, he asked one of the nurses what happened to the girl's father. They told him that she had slit his throat, almost to the point of decapitation. Holy shit. That's scary. That is absolutely scary. Volunteered in a mental health field on a crisis line for a major hospital chain over a decade ago. I did 12-hour shifts overnight, and we would get the normal people that would call in. Usually alcoholics that needed someone to talk to, depressed people, and of course people who would just call and pleasure themselves as I'd go through the starter script. As we can tell when you are doing that, and you will get hung up on. There was an individual with BDD, body dysmorphic disorder. Now, if you do not know what body dysmorphic disorder is, it's when somebody sees themselves as super heavy even though they're really, really thin. It happens a lot in anorexics and bulimics. Well, they would call in and be upset at the shape of their nose, or, not just the size of themselves, but also, anything on their body that they think is out of proportion and just obsesses over it. So, they're a very nice person, just going through rough times like most of the Collins. One night, they were really always worked at the graveyard shift ever since I was in high school. On ambulances, I always offered to take the late night shifts at the hospital, as I'm used to staying up all night and sleeping during the day. One night around 2 a.m. or so, 2 LEOs bring a patient in and put him into room number 8. The first thing I notice is that the patient is handcuffed to the bed. But anyone who works in healthcare in a major city knows that this is not that rare of an occurrence. Most of the time it's just done because of protocol, and the incarcerated patients are almost always very nice and cooperative. However, this time it was different. Very different. The second I walk into the room, the patient starts screaming at me to leave. So I calmly reply, "Why?" "Do it," he says, "because you're surrounded by them." It turns out the patient's hallucinations were of humans with thousands of arms and legs, and that they follow all other humans around, but only he can see them. I comply with his requests and stand behind him while gathering a patient history. I do not want to attract more things for him. All the time he keeps yelling how one of the secretaries has more beings than usual, and it upsets him. She starts telling me that these things tell him to bounce knives off of the wall. I don't know, all strange, but I've dealt with the worst. This is just really bizarre, I guess. It comes time to draw his blood. Also, to protocol, Elio must be in the room. Well, the second the officer comes in, the inmate starts shouting and screaming. He keeps saying he was going to throw acid on him. I firmly told him that no, he wasn't going to do that, and that's final. And he shut up. I called in a nurse to draw the blood while I stood by him to hold him down. Normally I could do it, but I figured it would be best to have two people. Then comes the kicker. The second he starts the line, he rips his arm away and starts winging blood at the officer. I mean, seriously, he's intentionally squeezing his arm to get more blood out. I've never seen anything like this before. The LEO subdued him. The whole room had to be decontaminated. He did not have an enjoyable rest of the night. It turns out that he was faking every bit of it to get out of some crime he had committed. So, I'm not allowed to go into a lot of detail here, She was convinced this person must be hearing voices. Well, definitely need to get this checked out. She then asked about the person's religion, and she was told what it was. My mother was not familiar with this religion and went and talked to another person she worked with and found out it was just a part of their religion. And to be careful with that one. She too is convinced to this day anyone who hears the voice of God is not right in the head anyway. The voice of God, what is that? I mean, it could be, as long as it's a good thing and I'm not telling you to kill somebody, that doesn't bother me, or doesn't seem weird. But when God starts telling them that they should kill people, that's when I guess I have a problem with it. But I'll tell you one thing, I went to a church one time with an business partner I had. And I've never seen people speak in tongues before or throw themselves on the floor. I was standing there just kind of in shock, I think, as people were throwing themselves on the floor. On the floor. On the floor. On the floor. I've kind of always wondered about people who claim that the FBI is after them, and then they get thrown in the asylum, or the hospital, or wherever they get thrown, and it turns out that the FBI is really after them. And that is interesting. was a nursing assistant. There was a hardcore street drinker who was a long-term resident due to brain abscesses. He only had partial vision, a vocabulary of around 40 words, and a fierce temper. His lack of vocabulary made him really frustrated. Although he was compulsorily detained, the ward was open and he was very good at escaping, occasionally with the complicity of some staff. A couple of days on the streets calmed him down for when he got back. He used to love having conversations, but his limited vocabulary, fierce temper, and frustration made it very difficult. Most staff avoided him. I used to spend quite a lot of time talking to him. Long as you could think of a word he was just about to say and help him by saying it, it would be fine. If you got the word wrong, you would go into a spiral of temper and go off pacing and shouting. He appeared to think that he and everyone around him was dead. He'd pace up and down saying things like, "I'm dead, you're dead, we're all fucking dead. The smell of it," in various volumes, of course, particularly when he was building up an escape. I tried to find out about his social background, where he came from and stuff, but did not get very far. I remember meeting him when he was begging on the streets. He was just off a dark alley. I was visiting town several years previously to me working at this place, and he was a pretty scary guy out there. Not being able to communicate, even with young children, like I taught my daughter sign language when she was a baby, because it is very frustrating when you cannot explain yourself or converse to get what you need and want. I was in an asylum when I was younger. Less serious, mind you. I have a couple interesting stories. Being only 16, I got a stay for 3 months. Actually fairly nice. The kids had problems, but most were okay, except for one. He had anger problems. But not just any anger problems, they were serious, very severe. You would kind of just assume that he was going to murder somebody when he was let out. It was also very odd because he would be such a nice kid generally. He was one of my roommates once. When he got angry, he turned into a Hulk type character. No kidding. The weirdest time was when one of the troublemakers cheated in a game of blackjack while playing with him. This kid flipped over the table in the middle of the day room and started beating the kid senseless. The techs got him past, dragged him out of the room, and took him down to the end of the hall to the quiet room, which was a room with nothing in it, padded walls, and everything you would think of. It didn't even have a mirror, running water in the bathroom, so that the kid could not kill himself, or anybody couldn't kill themselves. Me and 2 of the other kids went out into the hall to play our game, but mostly so we could listen. Yeah, we were nosy at that age. They had problems with this kid before, and they normally would give him a shot to knock him out. This time, apparently, he was upset about it. He started calling them all these horrible names, telling them that he wanted to do all this stuff with them. We tried not to laugh, but shove it in my dick and then attack me. The weirdest thing, hearing a 15-year-old boy screaming that. I would say, you know what I do wonder is what happened to these younger kids, if they got the help they needed, if they were okay. I stayed for about 4 days in an inpatient hospital when I was 14 for an attempted suicide. Looking back, I think it was more a place for adolescents who were repeat criminals and beyond rehabilitation, instead of a place for refuge for someone like me who went directly from getting my stomach pumped at the hospital to an ambulance ride to this home. I was scared, confused, crying, felt like my parents were abandoning me, and felt like I was being punished for what I did. But this place is beyond terrible. The horrors inside would cause nightmares. I have a bunch of stories of what I guess you could call abuse from the staff, or maybe malpractice. I don't really know. There were 3 beds to a room in this place. I slept in a room with 2 other girls. My first night there, I could not sleep and couldn't stop crying. As I was lying down, face down in my pillow, trying to be quiet, one of the other girls got up and stood silently over me in my bed. I only noticed her when I happened to glance up, and let me tell you, this girl was very tall, very big. She looked like she could take down 5 200-pound men in one go if she wanted to. She told me she would kill me unless I shut up. Despite this, I could not stop crying or saying that definitely did not help. She then went on to punch me every few minutes, usually in the arm or shoulder, but really hard. This literally went on for hours. They locked us in our rooms at night, so there was no way to escape. Every night after that, she would stand by my bedside silently to make sure I did not start crying again until I fell asleep. I was too afraid of her, too distrustful of the staff to say anything about it. There was an instance where my other roommate, the one who didn't threaten to kill me, stole a highlighter from the front desk. She was immediately caught when she tried to run, and at least 7 adults tackle her to the floor and pin her there for a good 10 minutes, even though she was screaming, "You're hurting me, you're hurting me, you're hurting me." After this, they tied her to the bed. Oh my gosh. Tying people to their bed was protocol for whatever, and whenever a patient threatened to do harm to them or themselves. I did not see or hear this girl threaten to do either of these things. She was tied to her bed and left for hours. Most of the day, they wouldn't even let her up to go to the bathroom. When they did finally let her up, it was discovered she had pissed herself. She was forced to clean it up because it was her fault. This is all for stealing a highlighter. They forced me to take meds while I was there. They refused to tell me what the meds were for. They still staff nicknamed all the patients Crack Baby. That's horrible. We were never called by our names, ever. There was a girl who was an actual, literal crack baby, and whenever the staff called anyone this, she burst into tears. Despite this, they never stopped and even called the girl that name right to her face. They drew my blood multiple times while I was there. I don't even know what for. They never told me. When I explained that I was extremely afraid of needles, I had done it 3 days in a row. Everyone there before me was used to it. At one point in the morning, very early morning, I had a panic attack. I was hyperventilating, crying hysterically. Instead of helping me calm down like they should have, they just got me, put me in lockdown in an unused bedroom for 12 hours. I sat there. Thankfully, looking back, they didn't tie me down. There was a bathroom in the room, but I was there with nothing to do in solitary confinement. 12 hours for having a simple panic attack. Probably from the medication they'd put me on that I kept complaining about. To this day, I still have nightmares about this place every once in a while. I was only at this place for 4 days, but it seemed like years. All this happened in that short amount of time. I don't want to think about the staff that went on before or after I was there. I don't want to think about anything that the patients had to be forced to do before or after I was there. I can't think of those things because it makes me physically ill. I realize now I probably should have taken legal action after my mom forced the doctors to allow my release. I was too shaken up to tell my mom about what happened in that place until years later. Of course, this has given me PTSD to where I fear even walking into a hospital or even driving by it. That's terrible. That I just, when it comes to kids, and for some reason, they're almost treated worse than the adults. I don't know why. It's like these people that work, and I'm not saying all of them, so don't, I know there are really good people in the mental health industry. But in my experience in the pain management, when I sold to doctors, pain management doctors, and worked in a lot of different drug treatment centers, hospitals, it just seemed like the doctors, the staff in those places with the kids were worse than they were even in the prison with the adults. So I don't know why. I don't know if it just attracts people that just despise kids and just want to see them fail, but it was really kind of sad to watch that. As a child, I took an art class in an abandoned insane asylum. I know, kind of strange place for an art class, but part of it had been converted into an actual art studio. It was really creepy, but it was just an old insane asylum. I'm not sure exactly why I took lessons there, but my mom said she said it was a good art class and she had good reviews. I don't know. most likely just the pipes and air conditioning. My imagination is very vivid, and again I believe it was a ghost attempting to contact me. I never went back. I took lessons with a different person who was really better anyway. I met a woman who worked in a mental institute in California who told me that she's now on disability because she tried to get a remote from a patient who responded by ripping her thumbs off. Luckily, the doctors were able to repair them, although they now have limited motion. Oh my god. Holy crap. Oh my god, that'd be terrible. Can you imagine having your thumbs torn off by a patient? Oh. I do admissions at a crisis unit. I get to see everyone as they first arrive or in their worst state. I also work the overnight shift, so things get interesting sometimes. One night, one of the techs from the unit was taking a break. Around 3 a.m., I was sitting on the bench out in front when a man pulled into the parking lot, got out of his car, buck naked, and ran off with his arms flailing into the woods nearby. On our way back, the tech told us the naked man, as we would literally be hearing him from in the near future, called the cops, and they sent half a dozen cars to search the nearby area because, naked mental patient on the loose is never a good thing, I guess. A short while later, the bell rings and it's the city cops bringing in a new client. The man had apparently drank a couple quarts of beer and proceeded to bash the empty bottles against the back of his head. The guy seemed like a pleasant fellow, but he had a huge gash on his head that was just pumping out blood. The cop looked like he was fresh out of high school, and I could not imagine he had a lot of experience. We still could not believe that this man did not take him to the hospital or even have the EMS treat him on scene. We refused to let him in because he needed immediate medical attention, which we all thought was obvious. We sure did not want to clean up all that blood. It was literally flying out of his head. So I'm gonna say Barney Fife gets on his radio and calls his sergeant. He looks at us and says, my sergeant says, you have to take him. We get our nurse who lectures him on the virtues of common fucking sense, and we make the guy wait at the door with the drunk guy with how the ambulance we called shows up. While waiting for the ambulance with Einstein, the wonder cop, who should show up, but our naked man from earlier. He comes stumbling around from behind the building and falls flat onto his face in the grass, not moving. We point the guy out to the cop, who just shrugs and ignores him. We say, sir, that's the guy everyone's looking for, and gestures to the helicopter who is flying overhead with the searchlights on. The man takes a few seconds to process what is happening, then runs to his car in half a panic. He comes running back out from his car with a flashlight and tries to signal the helicopter with it. He then gets on his radio to report that he found the missing naked man before he pulls his fucking gun out and demands surrender from this guy. The buck naked man, who was unconscious and face down in the grass, did not respond. I'm surprised Super Cop didn't shoot him. Less than two minutes later, the 6 other cops from earlier came flying back into our parking lot, and they all stood around the guy laughing at him. Now that's messed up. I'm sorry. Our drunk friend also has a good laugh at the naked man's expense and said, hey, at least I'm not that guy. We go and get a sheet from our supply room so that at least the guy isn't exposed to everyone. While the cops all try and figure out what to do with the naked was recently a patient of a psych ward. There were two guys in there who I generally liked, but one night they decided to take out all their hidden medication and snort it. I have a government job, and they were getting all paranoid, saying they could not talk to me because I'm government. And all the nurses are Illuminati, 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 Illuminati. There was another guy, he was 19 or so. He apparently, 2 months ago, was a totally normal kid in the university. He had friends. Nobody knew why, but he just changed. When I met him, he was really distant and intense and refused to speak. One day I was talking to a nurse and they all went running because apparently he was under his bed pulling out wires and refusing to come out. I'm assuming either to attempt doing himself or what the nurses said, or was as the nurses said, but less likely so the bed would not collapse on him. Oh yeah, and we had a guy that really had bad psychosis and would tell these super descriptive stories. I won't get into the details right now, but one was about digging a hole and throwing people in there and watching them all eventually go, I guess, all Lord of the Flies on each other, is what he said. Yeah, we have a lot of stories. And I was only in there for 2 weeks. I was an emergency psych, but nothing super crazy, just really bizarre and interesting. One day I'll tell you about Cheryl. Oh, that was really creepy. Please tell us about Cheryl. Am I ready? Cheryl. I worked in a group home for adults with developmental and emotional disabilities. The strangest thing was this older gentleman who called all the women hot pants. I don't know, it seems pretty normal to me, actually. My mom was sectioned several times when I was a kid. Once, a young guy in early 20s thought he was a child who would play ball with me, which I thought was great. Then he mistook me for a giant snake, and I learned why. He always had a big guy with him when we played together. This one time, on the day of release, my mom freaked out because she saw elephants walking up the road. She was feeling lucid at the time and doing well, so she was about to call the hospital and go back. And until I ran into the kitchen, about 6 years old, shouting, "Mommy, Mommy, the circus is here." Well, wouldn't that be something messed up? Your mom is trying to enter the hospital because she thinks she's hallucinating seeing elephants, and yet they're walking down the road in real life. That would suck. And that is actually would be a horrible thing. I think about knowing that you hallucinate, and to prevent yourself from being harm to yourself or others possibly, and then really seeing something that is really out of the ordinary. You don't see elephants walking up the road on a daily basis, obviously, and then you see this and you turn around to put yourself back into the hospital, and there really are elephants. That would be really freaky to me. That would scare me to death. You would not know what was real sometimes and what was not, and that's upsetting. My mom worked at a maximum security prison for the criminally insane. The worst British killers, rapists, sickos, all in there. One prisoner tried to do the whole trick of being super charming, asking if she was married, had kids, etc., 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 etc. To cement out of steel wool. Did I mention we had to get 5 staff, 1 on each arm, 1 on his head to hold him down while we cleaned him? Yeah, this because he spent all day trying to dig it out of his ass with his bare hands. That's so sad. He had feces in his talon-like fingernails. Sometimes it would randomly flail out at a nurse every time they tried to chase him into the hallway. I had to jump out of the nurse's station, tackle him, and pull a jagged shard of glass out of his hand that he'd ripped off a brochure dispenser on the wall. Shard piece of plastic out of his hand that he had ripped off a brochure dispenser which was on the wall. Even though he was old, he had a huge hunch in his back. That had retarded the strength of a body building baboon. We had a new nursing director that would not let us put him in restraints because he was trying to keep the number of incidents down that quarter to make herself look good. By incidents, I mean number of times we had to put the patients in restraints, so she didn't have to put it in reports, basically. She didn't give a two crap about how hard the guy was to deal with. This had the effect of getting every staff member punched, splattered in the face with feces, or scratched at least 2 times. I had this look. I had every time I went into work from then on, because I knew every night for 2 months. Gary stayed with us every single night. His wife would come to talk with us. Sometimes he would cry and yell and scream. But I heard, after I finally left this hospital, Gary passed away shortly after. Gary, you'll be missed by your wife, but not by me. I'm sorry. That's still sad. I mean, this guy was a totally normal guy until he got dementia, so be careful who you get angry at, because you never know when it's going to be you. Because I'm sure Gary was not anything like he was when you knew him. I just felt like I had to say this. And that's, I'd like to read this. So, this one, the Redditor says, I have spent 4 cumulative years in a psychiatric ward, treatment centers as a patient, depressions, defiance, issues, etc. I could tell a lot of stories, but ultimately, you have to remember one thing. These are real people with real health issues, and their behavior, while perhaps disturbing, and they are still people. So I'm not going to pass on any judgment. I really do urge you to consider that these are serious cases of mental illness, and the legitimacy And I don't think that by telling their stories it's disrespectful. But I do think making fun of them needs to be brought up, because I think a lot of people think, oh, that's a crazy asylum. Well, crazy. What is crazy? We're all crazy a little bit. And I hope that nobody takes this like that. But I've just worked in so many of these places, and I think that there are so many people that don't know what really goes on inside of prisons, jails, hospitals, mental institutions, asylums. It's really needs to be talked about more, I think, so we can see some change. I think mental illness is the last form of or section of the healthcare system that we actually freaking talk about. Yet it is the most depraved and ignored, and that just bothers me. It needs more money for sure. And of course, not all of it is heartbreaking. Some of it is funny or quirky and interesting, yes. But, some of it is really disturbing. And it needs, I think, to be, attention needs to be brought to it. That's what I think. I saw a lot of really just disturbing things happening in nursing homes. I worked with this jackass of a doctor that would drug his patients to the point that they would just, only reason was to not be an annoyance to the fucking nurses. It made me so angry. I couldn't believe it. I had asked her, I said, what's wrong with this woman? Nothing. She's just annoying. So you put her on all of these drugs to keep her doped up. The woman is old. She's not mentally ill. Yes, but she gets annoying and wants to. She's a night owl. Basically, she's a night owl. She likes to be up at night. There's many people who like to be up at night, but the nurses didn't want that, so he would literally drug this woman to the point that one day he was out. I had another doctor fill in, and he took her down her meds big time. Well, she was so happy. She was funny. She was fun. She was outgoing, loving, but she was a night owl. That was her only crime, okay? And he got so pissed at me that I had this other doctor look at her and really go against his professional opinion, since he had been doing this for so many years. I'm like, well, I don't think it's your decision to play God and make her into a zombie just because you don't like her sleeping habits. That's bullshit. I mean, she wasn't a dementia patient. She wasn't anything except for an elderly woman. That was it. And when she was offered drugs, she wasn't even that elderly. This woman had more energy than 90% of the nurses there. So that really upset me. She just didn't have any family that would take care of her or come visit her. And that's another thing that was really sad, is how if you have a family member, especially a parent, who is in the memory center, memory care facility for Alzheimer's, please go visit them. They know you're there. Whether they say they know you're not, trust me, they this one doctor that I had known for many years, and he was in there, and I was helping him draw this really pretty sunset, paint this really pretty sunset, and I went to walk away, and he grabs my hand, and he looks up, and he had tears in his eyes, and I was just like, my heart just melted. I felt like at that moment, his whole world was just, it like all came back to him, and he was thanking me even though he could not speak, and that's why I did it. And then I got so angry when I was teaching art, volunteering, at this woman who came in and treated her mother so poorly. I turned around and I said, she can hear you and she knows you're coming. She asks for you all damn day. And the woman just looked at me and I said, yeah, but I said she may not say anything probably because she's so overwhelmed with emotion that you're here. But before the hour, 2 hours when I was there, before her daughter would walk in the door and then start complaining that she wasn't talking to her, the woman would be like, is my daughter coming? Is my daughter coming? Is my daughter coming? And I don't know why the nurses did not tell this woman this before, but I just could not take it anymore because I knew the woman knew that her daughter was there and felt calmer. I just could feel it. And I turned around and I said, she asks for you all day long until you finally come. And when you come, you bitch the entire time that she won't talk to you. But I guarantee it because she's so overwhelmed with emotion that you're here. She can't say anything. And then you get all upset. She just looked at me. I don't know if it changed or whatever, but I only saw her a few times. I don't know. That stuff gets me very emotional. Not that I want to save the world or create world peace, but it'd be nice to just make one person happy and smile just one more time. Make their day a little bit brighter. You never know what people are going through. You really don't. So if you're interested in stories like the ones I'm telling you tonight, there is a book about Charles Manson called Charles Manson Now. It's written by a psychiatric nurse. He has some interesting stories in there. One of them was about a man who cut off his penis, put it on his finger, and wiggled it around at the nurse. I don't know how anybody could cut off their own penis. I mean, I don't have one, but I just, the thought about cutting any part of my body off, but crazy. I mean, that just hurt. Other than it, just, I don't know. I don't know. So, people always ask the question, why do mental patients paint their feces or do odd things with their excrements? I don't know if it's just me or if this is a natural thing, but I'm disgusted by all human waste, including my own. What part of being mentally ill overcomes that? Well, I just want to answer this question that it's not just the mentally ill. And I've never seen it in the men's unit. Maybe they do it to other men. But when I worked in the jail, the women would do that with their excrement. It was bizarre. And they weren't mental patients. They were just inmates. I don't know. I think when you start to confine any human being, whether they be mentally insane or not, it starts was still screaming, "My baby, give me back my baby." I remember there was another woman who needed at-home care because she was too obese to fit through the doors in her house and could not stand up. This woman, when I tell you she smelled like death. I was giving her a sponge bath. I noticed an odd mat of fur beneath one of the woman's fat rolls around her back. I shakily asked the woman if she owned a dog. The woman replies, "Well, I used to, but I have not seen him in about a month." This poor dog had gotten stuck in her fat roll and suffocated, rotting there for a month. That's really disturbing. There was a guy who had misplaced his toiletries and started demanding who stole them. We were all on our way to the first floor of the hospital where he first started getting upset about his missing stuff. When we get back, about 6 panes of windows with a wire mesh are nearly shattered with a bloody imprint on each one. The guy went absolutely insane and broken all of these windows, assaulted the staff, tried to fight other patients, all because he had forgotten he placed his shampoo under his bed. That must be terrible to live in a mind like that. So I'll do a few more. These are so interesting and so really sad, but interesting for the most part. Not too terrible. Believe me, I'm not even discussing the bad ones with you. You'd be surprised. I used to work as a phlebotomist in a big hospital. Whenever one of us had to go down to the psych ward to draw blood on a patient, we always had to be with another phlebotomist who had to secure your tray and were not allowed to leave trash of any kind. You took it all with you. One night we got a call from the hospital for a blood draw and went down to the ward with one of my bitch coworkers. As we entered the room, the smell of urine was overwhelming. You know, that kind that hits you in the nose and immediately gives you a headache. We approached the patient who was sitting in the corner at this point. I identified myself and told him what I was there to do. He took one look at my bitch coworker and proceeded to shoot out of his chair and pin her against the wall. He called her the devil and told her that she was going back to hell where she belonged. The nurses watched it all on the monitors, and we were swarmed with orderlies. I worked with the criminally insane in a prison. The worst, in my opinion, was the men who would just unblinkingly stare at you, panting and say hello in a voice that was really saying, "I've killed a lot of people who look just like you." Often they would stare out from the tiny windows in their cell doors and follow you out of the hallway with their eyes. The smartest men would be able to figure out things about you from your appearance, marriage status based on tan lines on your finger. For example, no jewelry and max security prison wings. They would then drop this in the conversation casually to watch for any reaction at all. I felt like I was always having a dangerous person look into my deepest thoughts and rummage around in my mind. I learned to walk down the exact center of the hallway because often the men would reach out from a spot in between the bars of their window and try to grab your hair. For the record, many prisons do not allow you to wear a bra with a wire in it for safety reasons, so you need to wear a sports bra. If you forget this rule, you need to sit with off, so he'll stay quiet about the winnings. That they had all these winnings and all the money that he won on paper, but they did not have enough in the back to pay. He was still pacing this whole time, talking to himself, yelling at random, and these wild stories about how to gamble and how every casino is required to cheat in some degree. Fifth day, he is gone. We had to call 911 after a few hours of trying to locate him. California Highway Patrol found him five miles away. He was walking back to Utah because he thought we left him there. He refused to get into the cop car that was going to bring him back to the camp. He was on top of everything else, pacing, yelling, etc. 6-day travel home day. My wife and I drove out there, so now we are in charge of him, taking him home, which is a 10-hour drive. He kept on thinking that we were trying to leave him, so he was in panic mode over that non-stop the entire time. Every gas station he would come out with the look of worry on his face. I gave him a book to read at that point, and he started to read the back out loud and got mad at the word homeland. He repeated it 200 times at least and got angry that he did not know or forget what it meant. He then had the same thing go down with the word discover. At our last stop, Wendover, Nevada, we went to the gas station, parked, and he went in to use the restroom. Well, after about 10 minutes in there, he came running out screaming, drive, 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 drive. I guess he blew up on a cashier because she would not give him money to use a payphone in the back to call his family because we left him in Lake Tahoe. She ended up calling the police on him because he was frantically yelling and screaming at her. As he barreled in the car we drove off, his 3 cop cars came speeding up the street on the main road. All in all, we did get home safely. We dropped him off at his mom's house after a hellish night of trying to make him take a shower. He did not bathe that entire time we were camping. He ended up locking himself in a room, bashing, thrashing about. Somehow he knocked himself out, and she had to call 911.